Word. And what is today's date? It is the 18th of January. Can you guys believe that already? It is January 18th, and I don't know about you, but I am like in shock that this month is more than halfway over. So if you're like me, it's kind of one of those things where January 1st happened and you're like, where did it go? I mean, like, where did the last 18 days even go? So I just wanted to set a couple of reminders for you guys to let you know that it's all gravy. It's all good. We've got some really good stuff going on this month. We're going to be talking about goal setting. And you guys know that at this point, I am really big on setting smaller, attainable goals as you focus on working towards your long-term goals. So what we do every month is set those smaller goals. So what I've done is I've created a couple of things that I really, really want to talk to you about. So the first thing, and I didn't even put it in writing, but I put it in our team page, is on Wednesday, this Wednesday at 12 o'clock, I am going to be doing a webinar where I am going to walk you through the basics of how to create a business/like page, whatever you guys want to call it. So I'm going through a training right now, and in the training, I'm really learning about why it might be imperative that as you grow your business, you want to start growing your network. And the best way to grow your network is to kind of expand past your personal page. Now, some of us have Instagram, some of us have Twitter, some of us have blog. What I really have come to find is that creating this like page is really gathering an audience. And once you kind of hone in on how to target your audience, you start working with people who are really, really like you. So I am going to be going over the basics of really starting your like page, starting to collect an audience on your like page, and what you post on a like page as opposed to just on your personal page. So that webinar is this Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Yes, it will be recorded, but in the webinar, it's going to give you an opportunity to do a live chat. So you can actually have your computer open. You can actually be looking at your like page or starting your like page while I'm going through all of that. So that's this Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Okay, so a couple things. Cafe Latte is now available. So what I would suggest to everybody is just start thinking about how can I start thinking about ways to provide information to people in a non-salesy way about how to start talking about Cafe Latte. $4 a day for it breaks down into, which is less than your Starbucks Frappuccino that you would buy. Plus you're getting 7 superfoods as well. Hold on, I'm going to mute you guys. Hold on one second. All right, I think I'm good now. Okay. All right, so on top of that, guys, we also want to make sure that we know that the Team Cup registration is available. Okay, so Team Cup, right? If you're new to the team or you're not really sure what this is or you haven't done one before, Team Cup is a group of 5 people on one team. It can only be one diamond and above coach who get together, and you basically create a small team together and you compete for prizes to accrue as many points as possible. You know, they have a lot of cool prizes along the way. The grand prize winner wins a trip to LA. But what I love, love, love about Team Cup is that every time I have done it, it has always propelled my business forward. So this is a really great time for you to get together with other people on the team, collect ideas and start working on, creating more ways to grow your business by brainstorming together. So this is a time where I encourage you to start looking and talking to people on the team and getting involved with other people and start talking about what are some of your goals. Do you want to do this Team Cup with me? And just reach out to people and really start talking about why you want to do the team cup. Now, in the past, people have been nervous about doing this team cup, right? You're like, I don't want to let anyone down, but I'm going to tell you that if you don't do it, you're going to stay where you are. You are in your comfort zone, and the only way to get outside your comfort zone is to do something like this, where you really are part of a team environment, whether it's the ideal time or not, and you are working together to grow your businesses, to propel one another forward. All right, so then I just want to go over a couple other things with you, and that is your focus for this week. Last week, I really talked about the avatar. I really talked about, making sure you're talking to your ideal customer. You are thinking ahead of the game and thinking about what that potential customer is thinking, and you're putting yourselves in their shoes. And so this week, we've got to talk about some of the most common objections we're getting. Common objections to Shakeology, right? Common objections to not having time to commit to a program. Common objections to things like, I'm not on Facebook all the time, or whatever those objections you guys are getting, let's collect them all together. I'm going to create in our team page just a little thread that's going to say, give me your objections. And my job is to help you guys overcome some of those objections. And I'm going to give you guys some ideas. I'm going to give you guys some scripts. I'm going to give you some YouTube clips to help you guys overcome these objections. But one of the best things that you can do to overcome any objection is to really start focusing on your posts. And your posts are where you start to think ahead of what that objection is going to be. So for example, today I did a post on my like page about Shakeology. And one of the most common questions I get is, do I really need a shake to lose weight? Heck no, but that isn't what Shakeology is. Shakeology is not a weight loss shake. Weight loss is just one of the many benefits you will happen to have when you use it daily. And in that post, I went over some of the other things that happen when you use Shakeology daily. So the objection to, do I have to take this to lose weight? I talked about that, but then I went into why you drink Shakeology. When we're trying to kind of put Shakeology into the category of a weight loss shake, we really are limiting what the amazingness to Shakeology really, really is. So we want to make sure that we're overcoming those objections. So that's our focus for the week, is just those common objections that we're getting, working with one another to talk about the post that we're doing, what we're saying on social media. If somebody says something in a private message that you're like, I don't know how to answer this, use the team to really help you overcome those objections. And then the last thing that I touched on last week is this concept of be here in a year. And I know Elizabeth can probably attest to this as well. Sometimes you feel like you're working this business, right? And you are just inviting, and you don't feel like you're going anywhere, or you're spinning your wheels, or maybe you are just like, I don't understand why I have to hit Success Club. I don't understand why it's so important to my business. And the concept is, if you really truly give 100% now, if you do the work now, I can tell you in hindsight, when you can say, be here in 1 year, where will you be? If you give it 100% now, where will you be in 1 year? But you have to be able to give it 100%. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to give this year everything you've got and go at it, give it 100%, overcome those objections, think before you post about what somebody could potentially need from you and what you have to offer? That is our focus, is to make sure that we're working together on overcoming those objections. And that next year at this point, we'll be on a team call again. And we will be talking about, I am so glad that I focused on that now in January and I gave it 100%. So with that being said, one more thing that I want to shout out, guys, is the Success Club in January. So I just want to make sure you guys see where everybody's at. I want to make sure that we're shouting out. Look at these SC10 earners that we have already. Ro, I think you are at 16 top Success Club points for the month of January. Congrats. Katie, Rachel, and Erin Hennigan already at 10 and above. Jenna Glove, our new coach, welcome aboard. And she is at 8. We've got Jen, Kate, Michaeline, Jess, Cynthia, Stevie, Lynn, Allie, and Whitney already hitting Success Club for the month of January. Half the month is gone, but that means that we are getting serious in the second part of the month. So many names on this board. And if your name isn't on this board yet, it is okay, because I have a feeling that tonight Elizabeth Hartke is going to give us some amazing information. So if it's okay, I'm going to give them a little bit of background about you. So Elizabeth is a 10-star diamond coach. She has 19 lifetime diamonds in her personally sponsored organization. She is a mom to baby Jack, who I believe is 8 months old. 8 months old, and her husband Michael and her, they are heading to sunny Florida next week, which I told her I was really jealous about because it's 6 freaking degrees here in Pittsburgh. She also knows what she's talking about. She has been a summit presenter. You might have noticed she was on the Surge just last week, 2 weeks ago. She has presented on the National Wake Up Call as well. If you have been part of the 3 vital behaviors, I use her video, the 10 in play, all the time, because it's just this great idea of constantly having people in your network, in your connections. So Elizabeth, I think I got it all, and it is yours to do your thing. I can unmute you too.
I got it. Okay, cool. Sorry guys, I'm working on 2 monitors, so if you see me looking up and then down, I never know where to look on this thing. But Katie, thank you so much, and thank you for having me on tonight. Guys, you have such a gift in your leadership by having Katie setting an example for you. She just is, I admire her humility and her work ethic and her strength, and it's just so awesome to get to connect with you, Katie, and I'm super excited to talk to you guys tonight, because I think what I'm going to share goes along with a lot of what Katie was just talking about. And this is something that when it clicked for me, it changed everything for me. And I think we spend a lot of time setting goals, and they're so important. It's so important to know what direction you're going in, what you're working towards. But I'm going to challenge you guys to shift your focus just for right now from goals to growth. And I'll explain why. So when you're working towards goals, you might hit them, and then you've locked in your goals. But if you're working towards growth, personal growth, you'll hit your goals, and you're going to grow. You're going to grow as a leader. You're going to grow as a person. You're going to grow in your relationships, in your marriage, as a parent, in all the areas that you need to be growing to be a true success as a coach. Not just a one-dimensional hitting diamond, just locking in Success Club, making a little extra money. I'm talking like a coach that moves mountains and changes lives and touches people's hearts. That's where you see that longevity in this business. That's what sets apart the true leaders, the true success stories from the people who fizzle out or fall off or quit. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. And I remember when someone I consider a mentor asked me this question, I thought I had the answer. I thought it was a quick yes, but they challenged me by asking me again and told me to really think about it. And I realized that this was a mind-blowing concept to me. So what if I asked you, do you have a personal growth plan? Now, if you're anything like me, your initial thought is, yep, I have my goals, I have my to-do list. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a long-term personal growth plan that is unique to only you. It's unique to your gifts, your purpose, your strengths, and where you want to go in your life. Not just in this business, not just this month, not even just this year. This is all about your growth. And I am an insanely disorganized person. Don't be deceived by what you can see. I know what Zoom captures, and I clean literally, like if you went an inch outside of this little box, it's a tornado. So I will not move this camera ever. I did this for the surge, and like all my crap is outside of these walls here. But my point is, I'm not typically organized. I'm not the type to structure a growth plan. I always wing it. I'm like fly by the seat of your pants type of girl. And this year I'm doing things differently. I even have an official binder with my name and growth strategy on it. So I'm going to kind of go through right now a little bit about, hopefully I have that on me. I might have to get up and get something I want to share with you guys. But I want to talk to you about the difference between goals and growth and how you can really work through some of the struggles that set you back from developing that growth plan. And I base a lot of what I've learned and really mastered in this area from what I've taken from John Maxwell. I find him to be one of the best, most integrity, faith-driven people to follow. And his book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, that one really has struck me. And he talks about these gaps we tend to fall into when we want growth and we want to hit goals, but we don't really work through the things that we're truly struggling with. Everyone's really anxious to improve their circumstances, but they're not willing to do the work to improve themselves first. So I want to talk to you guys about what that work looks like and how to start that development of the personal growth plan. And I'm going to do that by breaking down these, what he calls gaps, these 8 gaps that we fall into that prevent us from doing that and why. And it all applies so beautifully to our business as coaches. So that first gap that we tend to fall into, it's the assumption gap. It's assuming that you're automatically going to grow. So I'll give you an example. Last year, this is a really hard thing for me to admit, but I set a goal for 15 star because I ended the year in 2014 as a 10-star diamond coach. I also ended the year in 2015 as a 10-star diamond coach because I spent 2015, I took a lot of time off because I had my baby and the end of my pregnancy was rough. But I kind of fell into that assumption gap. It was like, well, with time, I'll automatically grow. I'll get there. It will happen naturally. And it doesn't work that way. We have to be intentional about what we want. We have to be not only visualizing the things that we want, not only putting it on our vision board, setting those goals, but we actually have to be aiming for them and working towards them every day. You have to do it with intention. What is your destined port? Think about a ship at sea. There's a reason that they have their markers set down to the single degree on a map, because if they're off by 1 degree, sure, they're not going to notice it, maybe even for a couple of days. But if you travel just 1 degree off for many, many miles, you end up in the wrong freaking country. So that's why you have to know, where am I seeking to land here? And don't fall into that trap of just assuming you're automatically going to get there with time. It does not work that way. The second gap that we tend to fall into is the knowledge gap. And this one is one that I really try to drive home with my team because it drives me up a wall. Nothing grinds my gears more than a coach being like, well, I didn't do it because I didn't know how. Or texting me a question that they could look up. The knowledge gap is saying that you don't know something, so you can't grow. If you don't know it, figure it out. Be independent. Act like a business owner. You are a CEO. You own your own business now. You don't have the luxury of saying, I don't know how to do that, so I'm just not going to do it. I don't know what cycling is, so I'm not really going to focus on volume. It doesn't really matter to me. Okay, well then you're not going to achieve your goals. You're not going to grow the way that you want to. So seek guidance. Make a decision to grow and to learn these things and utilize your resources. I'm going to give you guys a couple of incredibly valuable resources. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, so take out a pen. The first one is Google. Google.com. You don't know how to do something? Freaking Google it, okay? There are so many questions that get asked in our team page, and I just respond in all caps, Google, like Google it. Even Beachbody questions, you can find the answers on Google. The second tool is the FAQs in our Team Beachbody online office. You go into the online office, scroll to the bottom, and you'll see FAQ tab. And when you call Coach Relations and you ask them a question, they're utilizing that same tool that we actually have access to. You can learn so much about this business by utilizing that FAQ section. So please use that tool. And then other resources that are obvious, your team page. I know that Katie's running a killer team. I'm sure that the team page is a great place. Don't text Katie every time you have a question. If you have gone through, exhausted every possible option, then sure, maybe see if you can set up a time to chat with her, but be independent. Try and figure these things out on your own and fill that knowledge gap instead of falling into it. The third one is the timing gap. And this kind of is along lines of the assumption gap, but I like to focus on the element of it that I'm sure we hear this a lot as coaches when we're trying to recruit and invite people to join us. Oh, this is just not the right time for me. I'm not at my goal weight, so this isn't the right time for me to start coaching. Imagine what you'd accomplish if you did all the things that you said you wanted to do, okay, without falling into that trap of saying, well, this just isn't the right time, or even worse, I'll do it later. If you haven't noticed, later is not a date on the calendar, and it doesn't ever come. So please try to shift your mindset from assuming or thinking, this isn't the right time for me, or I can't right now. Instead of saying those things, force yourself to say things like, I'm not making it a priority right now. And that really, for me, triggered a change. Because when I took the accountability for it, instead of kind of blaming my circumstances, oh, I'm too busy, I can't do it right now, I started saying, I'm not making it a priority right now. And it was like, ooh, I don't really like that. I think I should probably make it a priority right now. And when you can shift your mindset on that, you stop pushing things off. And there's a quote that I loved from that book, The 15 Laws of Invaluable Growth, that I think it says, life lived for tomorrow is always one day away from being realized. In other words, keep saying tomorrow and you're never going to actually live out your purpose or your dreams, or you're never going to actually experience what you were meant to experience in your life because you're too busy waiting. You're waiting for it to come to you. That also kind of applies to when you're talking to prospects and you get that excuse of, okay, I'll let you know, I'll get back to you, and then you don't follow up with them. There's the law of diminishing intent. Like, the longer that you wait to keep that spark alive, the more it fades out. And less likely are those people to purchase with you or join your team. You really have to strike when the iron's hot. The fourth gap is the mistake gap. I think this one's just about being human. We're all afraid of making mistakes. So what would you attempt in your life? Like, this is a real question. I want you guys to think about this and maybe write down the answer for yourself to hold yourself accountable. What would you attempt to do if you knew for certain that you wouldn't fail at it? Would it be a goal that you set for yourself in your business, a rank advancement goal, an income goal, maybe a speaking opportunity? I don't know what it would be for you, but what would you actually attempt if there was no fear of failure there? Mistakes are how we learn, especially as business owners. We have this, blank canvas. We don't come into this knowing exactly what to do. I think of it almost like parenthood, right? Like, I read the books, everything leading up to having my son, but then the day comes where we get to leave the hospital and I'm looking at these nurses like, wait, what? You're actually going to let me take this kid home? I'm responsible for this baby? I don't know what to do. Well, unfortunately for my son, there were many mistakes made along the way, but I learned from them. That's kind of like what we're doing here as coaches. You kind of have to make those mistakes to know what to do better the next time. And I think one of the things that differentiates the people who really find success as coaches and the people who just don't, they just coast and they just never make this into something worth their while, is when they make the mistakes, they either let them cripple them and they fall apart and they give up, or they don't learn from their mistakes and they just keep making the same ones. So to me, my failures have been my most valuable teachers in this business. I have failed. For every success, you don't get to see the 1,000 failures that came before it. Embarrassing, fall flat on your face kind of mistakes. But they've taught me so much. When I scroll back, I have Time Hop on my phone now. I'm cool. Like, I get these cool apps now that I learn about. Time Hop, it's like probably been around forever. But I get the things that pop up, like 1 year ago, 3 years ago, whatever. Lately, I've been getting these ones from like 2-3 years ago of like posts I put up. And it's literally like, yum, chocolate Shakeology, here's my link. Oh, so embarrassing. But I've been sharing those with my team, being like, guys, look at these horrible mistakes I made. And now look at what I'm doing. Like, I've obviously learned from that. So learn from my mistakes. Don't do these horrible posts. So that mistake gap, we often fall victim to it, but we actually can really utilize that to our advantage. The next one is the perfection gap. I was a self-proclaimed perfectionist, and that is the biggest load of BS that you can ever throw out there. Perfectionism is just another word for another way of saying I'm too scared. I'm not ready to start. I'm too scared. You don't have to have it perfect before you begin. You have to just take that first step. And there's this way of looking at it that I think of it as, you're driving on a road at night. So it's dark out and you're in your car and you have your headlights on, but your headlights only allow you to see however many yards out in front of you. But you keep driving, even though you don't know what's coming up next. Yeah, sure, it would be nice to know when the next turn in the road comes, but you can figure it out as you go because of those headlights, because it allows you to see so far, and you keep progressing. And as you move forward, you get to see a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and it's revealed to you there. But if you want to see what's coming next, if you want to see what's around the corner, you have to keep moving forward. You can't wait for the perfect amount of daylight to keep driving. You'll never get to where you want to go. So don't derail yourself by trying to convince yourself, oh, I just have to make it perfect. I have to get down to my goal weight before I start posting on Facebook. I have to go through every training in the online office and collect all the information I can possibly find before I start coaching people. Just do it, learn from your mistakes, and keep moving forward. And you have to remember, there are always going to be like 1,000 reasons not to do something. You just have to hold fast to the one reason that you have to. What is that one reason that you started this in the first place? And put your focus on that. The next gap, I think, is like probably one of the more common ones for us as coaches, and that's the comparison gap. Okay, how many of us compare to other coaches? How many of us look at other coaches that, maybe came in around the same time as us, but they're rank advancing faster, or they're making more money than us? Yeah, it's like called being human, but you have to learn to control it, because some people, do the comparison thing, but they can move forward. Instead of envying that person and letting it like eat away at them and make them wish for things, they look at that person and say, okay, I want that. What am I going to do to get it? What can I learn from that person to help me on my journey? So yeah, it's natural to compare a little bit, but learn from them, like grow from that experience or that humanness that you might have, where you can't always have those perfect blinders on, but as much as you can, put the blinders on, because this is your business. It's not Katie's business. It's not my business. She's not your boss. She's not your manager. You guys are business owners. This is your thing. So you have to make it unique to you, and you have to plow ahead knowing that this is your fight. It's not anybody else's fight. And the final gap, the expectation gap. Oh, well, I thought this coaching thing was going to be a little bit easier. Someone told me if I just sign up and I post on Facebook and I, just do those 3 daily disciplines every day, I would just get to where I wanted to go. No, it doesn't work that way. Like Katie said, it takes work. You have to challenge yourself. You can set expectations, but make them positive. Make them so that you will work harder to get to where you want to go. We fall into that trap of just that mindset of like, I expected this to be a walk in the park. I expected to just get to where these leaders are going in their business just by sticking around. You have to pay your dues. You have to work at it. And you have to, like we said in the beginning, know your destined port. What are you aiming towards? How are you working to get there? You can't change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. So when you're really struggling, don't focus on changing your destination. It's too overwhelming. Focus on just making one little shift so you change your direction, aiming at that destination. Do you see the difference? So you cannot change your destination overnight. You can change your direction overnight. And throughout this process, you have to remember that there are ways that you can benchmark your growth and your personal growth. And that's how it kind of ties back into your goals. That's why you have to make certain goals non-negotiable, because that helps in the growth. So personal development, non-negotiable, because that's going to help you grow, which is going to help you hit your goals. Success Club, non-negotiable. There are certain things that you just have to do as a coach if you want to succeed, if you want to grow. You can't skip a month. And you have to remember, if there are times where you feel like this is really hard, like, why isn't my family supporting me? Why doesn't my husband believe in me? Why aren't people just signing up to join with me and my team? Ask yourself this: have I been truly 100% consistent in the things that are non-negotiable to this business throughout this process, or have I wavered? Because if you are wavering, why would anyone line up to join you? If you don't believe in it, or you take vacations from it, why should anyone else believe in it or not take time off from supporting you in it? It's a humbling thing when you can admit where you've fallen short. But that's like that mistake gap. That was a mistake that it can be so valuable to your learning what you can do next. And I know Katie showed us the way she tracks her business, simple, to the point, and it's going to help her get those non-negotiable goals every single month, every single year for the long term, and allow her to continue to grow in the process. So you have the resources, you just have to use them. And it's on you. You can't point the finger at anyone else but yourself. The moment I took ownership for myself, for this business, for all of my stupid, ugly mistakes, was the moment I really started to grow, and I noticed that my goals followed suit. So Katie, that's what I've got for you guys. I hope that was helpful.
It was so helpful. I hope it's okay. I am going to ask a couple of questions, and I hope I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am going to kind of put you on the spot. So my first question is just with these gaps, right? So like they're kind of like potholes. I mean, I always think of it as driving towards the light. So I think of them as like your potholes in the road, right? Mm-hmm. So as new coaches, like coaches who are just starting out the business, where do you feel like what gap tends to make them quit? Because a lot of times, like I see people give up before they ever really get on the road and go. Mm-hmm. What do you think it is that what pothole or gap do you feel like new coaches tend to really fall into?
I think the first one that comes to mind, and I say this because I think I experienced it myself, is the mistake gap. Because we're so conditioned to think that when we make a mistake or we have a failure that we're not good at something, or that we're not meant to do that, or that when we get a no from someone, that's it. We did our best, we tried, and we failed. Let's move on. And it's so not true. Like, you ask any, not even as coaches, like ask any successful, anybody, a successful parent, a successful coach, a successful spouse, someone who runs a killer business, a doctor, anyone. You think that they didn't make mistakes? You think they have a clean track record and that's what got them to where they are? No, they persevered through those mistakes, and their vision for their future was clear enough and powerful enough that they could push through those mistakes. And that's why it's so important to have such a strong why and such a strong connection to why you're doing this. But I would say that mistake gap is what really derails most coaches.
Okay, and then on the flip side too, so, you know, we see your name in shining lights, right? We see you on the National Wake Up Call. We see you at Summit. We see you on the Surge, 10-star. But as a coach now, at this point in your business, in 2.5 years, have you been coaching? 3 years?
A little over 3 years, yeah.
Okay, so my question for you is, do you feel that you still fall into any gaps? And when you do, how do you get yourself out of it?
Oh, totally do. I totally do. The comparison gap, it doesn't matter how much you accomplish in this business, there's always someone that's doing it better. You know what I mean? Like, people that I'm even close to, I still sometimes am like, how do they do it? You know, they're a parent too. How do they find the time to do this? I feel like I'm drowning sometimes, and I fall into that comparison gap. But I have to remind myself, like, this is my mission and it has to be clear. And that's where it's really important, in my opinion. Beachbody is amazing, but we are not just Beachbody coaches. I think one additional Beachbody gap we fall into is pigeonholing ourselves into this mold of like, I am a Beachbody coach and that's it. No, I'm Elizabeth Hartke. I'm running my own business, and I partner with the company Beachbody to utilize their products and services to help more people. But my business is me, and I'm unique. So at the end of the day, I can't really compare me to anyone else, because if I'm doing my job right, no one else fits that category. So it's tempting to compare the Beachbody side, you know, the rank and the recognition and the income and the accomplishments. But at the end of the day, when I fall into that gap, I have to like bring it back to the core of my business, and that's who I am. And if I feel like I'm not putting my unique thumbprint on something, I've got to work on that. You know, I've got to figure out who's my niche, who do I want to serve here, who am I trying to help that will relate to me and my journey, and get back to basics on that.
I like it. What other questions do you guys have for Elizabeth? So let me see. And don't be afraid to ask. I am sure she is more than willing to answer any questions for you guys.
Yes, I definitely am.
We're quiet tonight. It's because you're all just thinking so much. So you said that, I'm just going to ask one more while a couple people are thinking. So certain goals are non-negotiable. So you said Success Club and personal development. Is there anything that you personally have found in your own business as Elizabeth Hartke to be sort of a non-negotiable for you?
Yeah, I think there are a couple. I'd say once you start growing a team, your connection with your team has to be non-negotiable. Like, you can't sign people up and be like, here's the online office, here's this, like, good luck to you. Because like I said, you want to have independent coaches, but that connection to this business and that connection to your leadership is everything. So that's non-negotiable, like scheduling in time to build in that way. And then something else is just like that, the discipline that you have to kind of exemplify every day. When I say non-negotiable, this is if you want to be successful. I guess I should say that. Like, if you're okay with this being a hobby and making a few extra bucks here and there and not having this be like purpose driven, then you can do whatever you want. I'm just speaking more to the people that see and maybe like what they see and what other people are doing and say, I really want that for myself. How can I do it? The things that I think are so important, kind of going back to Katie referenced the 10 and play that I utilize, is constantly having a full pipeline. So that to me, it means building connections and relationships every single day. And I am really good at this point about having business hours, especially since having my son, because when I'm with my family, like I'm with my family, I'm not using my phone, I'm not posting, I'm not doing any of that stuff. But I will say that, like, even on the weekends when we go to church or we're at the supermarket, like, someone's going to know what I do. And it's not because I'm going up and saying, hi, I'm Elizabeth Hartke, I'm a Beachbody coach, would you like to join my team? It's because I live it at this point, so if I bumped into Katie and she's checking me out at the supermarket in the line, and she says, wow, like, you've got tons of help. Like, I don't think I've seen anyone else with this many healthy foods in one grocery shop. And, well, it's actually what I do for a living. Like, I help people with that. That to me is like a connection, and I'm filling my pipeline. I'm giving that person my business card and I'm getting their name so I can connect on Facebook. So I might not be on a Sunday, like, sitting down at my computer, messaging a bunch of people, but every single day I'm building connections and keeping that pipeline full. And to me, to keep growing for the long term and never feel like your cup's running dry, you have to keep doing that.
Okay, and my last question for you is, how has your life personally changed from this business?
Oh my gosh, I'm a different person. Actually, no, I'm the person that God intended for me to be. And that person was like kind of imprisoned for a while before this opportunity opened doors for me. I was working full-time in corporate, totally, like, I'm not one of those people that was broke as a joke. You hear that a lot. I wasn't. I was fine. I had a good job. I was in a lot of debt because of school and everything, and just had totally accepted, painfully, but accepted that was my life. Like, going to job every single day, 5 days a week, every single week, to do something I didn't believe in. I was underpaid as far as like my gifts and my skill sets went. I didn't even get to utilize a lot of my skills and my gifts, and I felt so trapped. I was trapped in an unhealthy body, in an unhealthy mind, and unhealthy relationships. And what this job did, or what this new career path did, was not only did it afford me the opportunity to be able to leave corporate, to be home full time with my son, but it also, and we're going to be bringing my husband home soon. We haven't told people yet. And he works in corporate. But besides like the physical things that it's done, it has totally changed who I am. Like, if I were 3-4 years ago talking about these gaps, I'd be like, oh, I live in that gap, and I vacation in that gap, and I spend my weeks in that gap. Like, that's how I lived my life. I was envious of other people. I was totally insecure. I assumed that I was the biggest daydreamer. Like, I would sit in my cubicle at work and literally like just drift off into these daydreams. I wanted to be a business owner and I wanted to do all these things with my life, but I wasn't taking any action to get there. But in my silly little mind, I thought, someday it'll happen. I'll just naturally get there. And now I get to live it, but the best part is I've totally changed like my mindset and my belief in myself, and I get to give that gift to other people through this opportunity. To me, Beachbody is amazing. It's an excellent company. We offer tremendous products that like totally changed my health and my fitness and everything. But the gift of Beachbody is that it's really just a platform. It's a vehicle that anybody can use to get to their dreams, no matter what they are. So that to me is like beyond priceless. I'm such a different person, and now I get to raise my family with like, I think now, you know, if I didn't have all this, what would I have been like as a mom? You know, what would I have been like as a wife? Would I have been someone even worth having in your life because I didn't have these beliefs in myself and I didn't know what was possible? So totally different, to answer your question very long-windedly.
Yeah. It's hard not to, like, when you know how much it's changed you. And it's one of those things I always think of, that guy who's mining diamonds. Do you know this picture? And like in the one picture, he's really, really far away from the diamonds. And then in the other picture, he's like right there, but he walks away. He gives up. And I always think of that as the perfect analogy to this business, because it is right there. But if you walk away from it, you'll never know the full potential that it has to truly change your life. But if you just keep going at it and you do those vitals every day, that's where you see the difference. That's what makes all the difference. You have to keep believing before you ever see it come to fruition. So Elizabeth, this was an amazing call. I think everybody right now is just thinking of those gaps and where they see themselves. And even for me, like everything you said, I was like, yep, I'm there. Like I need to get out of that pothole. I'm right there right now. And it just was the right time, a perfect timing for this type of call. So I can't thank you enough for your time and everything you had to say. So thank you guys. Guys, do you have any other questions before we let her go for the night? Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Everybody have a great night. And I will, of course, be in the KB and looking for some feedback from you guys. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, guys. Have an awesome night.
Bye, guys.